Welcome everyone to the December 5th, 2023 City Council, also acting as the Board of Canvassers work session. First up, let's review the agenda. So we'll start at 5:55 with Board of Canvassers. Is there anything else we need to say about that? Okay. And then we will consider certifying the election results. Anybody has any concerns about that? Also ask Tracy more questions during that. Then we'll have the city council meeting at 6. Like we have a lot of minutes to approve. And then we have the proposed street vacation of the northern portion of 3rd Street between Porter and Jefferson. That's a public hearing. Any questions about that?
We got that citizen comment about that. Did anybody ever follow up with them by chance?
Was it an email? Let me just look.
It was an email, yeah. And it wasn't very specific. It just said, we don't want you to do that. It's kind of, you know.
I do kind of remember that one, yeah.
I just didn't know if any follow-up was ever had or explanation made or anything.
Okay.
Maybe Barton. No,
and I don't know if we had any additional public input of any sort. Or...
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't aware of the public comments.
No.
They didn't call your office then, apparently. Okay. I suppose the presentation will explain everything and should answer any
right. It was a phone call.
Questions.
Like,
so
yeah.
I just want to make sure that we, covered all the questions if we had some.
Yeah, they made a comment about we are most likely putting in 5G. And basically the caller does not agree with anything the city is doing. Yeah. All right, then we have public comments. And then considering going into a closed session. All right, great, no concerns. Oh, I should just say that all council members are present, with the exception of Councilmember Nadolski, who I believe is online. Would you like to say hello?
Yep, I'm here just in time. Just finally got to my hotel room. So thanks for accommodating.
Well, thanks for joining us. Well, this evening, we're really excited to welcome Steve Waldrop and Bruce Jardine from the Rocky Mountain Home Fund to talk with us a little bit about some of the work they're doing. And we'll welcome you. You can come and sit right up here if you'd like to. Bruce, you better get on up here. Oh, we have an extra one too. Okay, we have a lot of extra. It's just really helpful if you speak into the mic because we have Councilmember Nadolski online, but also the public could be online listening too.
There we go.
Welcome.
Mics are live.
So
Thank
we started last week with a brief discussion about development and different housing issues, and we all have had access to the most recent audit report for Utah housing from the legislature. So we're all just trying to find the best way to meet the needs of the community, and we love hearing about your projects.
Thank you. And let me just start by introducing one of my partners, Bruce Jardine, one of my former partners, actually, probably.
Yeah.
So this morning, I was announced as the governor's new, I can't remember what my title is.
You have a new housing title?
Policy advisor on housing and innovation, I think is what I am. So
congratulations, I didn't hear that.
I'm joining the governor's office as of today. And so there will be a transition period, and I've got to kind of separate my worlds now and make sure that one world doesn't crash into the other. So I won't be available beyond today to talk much about this,
just in time.
except for in broader perspective of the state's housing challenges. So that'll be my new effort is focusing on state policy, statewide policy, and awesome. Ogden City is as you guys know, one of the places that does it right. So we're looking forward to working with you guys more. Having said that, Rocky Mountain Homes Fund is a fund that was started with the intent to lower the bottom rung of the ladder for home ownership. And when we started, we thought that ladder was pretty high. The bottom rung of the ladder was pretty high. And that was in 2020. And since then, as we know, the bottom rung of the ladder is way beyond where it was back in 2020. With climbing interest rates, the gap between what people make and what they can buy and what the market has grown dramatically and is creating real problems. I think the last report, and I think it's in that report, Chair, is 90%, I think some 90% of Utahns that aren't current homeowners won't be if things don't change. And so this fund was started to lower the bottom rung of that ladder. And we'll just watch a short video here that'll save me 45 minutes of talking.
Chair, could I ask a question that maybe one thing I've never really understood, it's always kind of boggled my mind, is why supply and demand pressures don't affect this more? Do you have any sense of that?
When you say supply and demand pressures don't affect it more, or
Yeah, I mean,
well,
it
that's
seems like we're, you know, people, a lot of people maybe want to, but they can't, and
Yeah.
but the prices still keep going up, and so I haven't figured out exactly how come it doesn't bring it down when.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have a supply issue in the state of Utah right now. We have a massive shortage, and part of the challenge comes from the fact that we're not creating homes for everybody, for all demographics. Developers make the most money on higher cost homes. And so if they have a choice of building A or B and B makes more money, they're going to build B. Even though there is still demand for A, as long as there's demand for B, why would they build A? And then, you know, you accompany that with a lot of cities not wanting to do density, not wanting to do small lots, not wanting to do townhomes, and you know, shifting that affordability curve higher. It's created a massive problem. But that's a great question. Okay.
This is Cindy. Cindy is a school teacher in the Rocky Mountain School District. She's 29 and has 2 kids, Tiffany and Jane. Cindy earns about $4,000 a month. Right now, she lives in an apartment with her kids. Her rent is $1,600 a month, which is about 40% of her total income. Cindy's dream is to own her own home someday. She actually even had one in mind. The home costs $300,000, but Cindy's credit isn't the best, which will make it hard to find a financial institution willing to give her a mortgage. And she can't really afford the $60,000 down payment anyway. Luckily, Cindy's employer let her know about Rocky Mountain Home Fund. When Cindy visited their website, she learned about a new kind of program that helps working professionals become homeowners and was able to easily apply. The 2 biggest barriers to entry into homeownership are the down payment and the ability to qualify for a loan with an affordable monthly payment. But because she's working with Rocky Mountain Homes, Cindy doesn't have to make a down payment at all. And by working with Rocky Mountain Homes, she gets an interest rate and monthly payment that's lower than what she could get on her own. Once her online application had been approved, Cindy sat down with Rocky Mountain Homes and gave them some basic information. They asked things like her monthly income, her credit score, and what monthly expenses she had. They explained that this helps them get an idea of what her finances look like, which would help them identify what homes were within her reach and customize her monthly payment to fit her budget. They also explained that even though she was sharing the equity, she maintained the right to refinance and take full ownership of the home, or to move out of the home and receive the benefit of any equity that she's in. Cindy was paying $1,600 in rent per month. Her new monthly payment is only $1,500. So every month, Cindy saves $100. Rocky Mountain Homes Fund set up a custodial savings account where they help Cindy create and maintain a 6-month reserve. This reserve will help her cover unexpected major expenses. The initial deposit equals 2 months of her monthly payment. This is similar to a first month, last month deposit at an apartment complex. The difference is, this is money that Cindy can access when she needs to. Since Cindy's monthly payment is $1,500, her initial deposit is $3,000. They gave her the option to either pay it out of pocket or roll some of it into her monthly payment so she can lower her out-of-pocket expenses. So, let's review. Cindy makes about $4,000 a month. Her credit score isn't great, but she has saved some money in the bank. She probably couldn't have gotten a mortgage on her own. And even if she could, she couldn't afford the down payment and wouldn't have a monthly payment she could afford. But everything changed when Cindy heard about Rocky Mountain Homes Fund. Through the program, Cindy avoided having to make a down payment, reduced her monthly housing costs by $100, and was able to get a much better interest rate and monthly payment than she could have gotten on her own. Keep in mind, Cindy can refinance and take full ownership of the home, or move out of the home and receive the benefit of any program equity that she's earned. But look at what happens if Cindy decides to stay in her home for 5 years. Cindy has a 50-50 equity split. Her monthly savings of $100 over 5 years comes to $6,000. At the end of year 5, Cindy will have paid down about $16,045 in principal. Cindy keeps 100% of her principal payments as program equity. Finally, the 5-year appreciation of Cindy's home is $47,782. Since Cindy has a 50-50 split, she keeps $23,891 of the appreciation as program equity. Cindy's total 5-year benefit is $48,923. Pretty incredible, right? Now look what happens if she stays for 5 more years. Her total 10-year benefit is an amazing $101,729. After 10 years, Cindy has 2 options. She can either re-up with the program or choose to refinance and own the home outright. At this point, her credit score is probably higher. She has a lot of equity in the program, and if she saves up that $100, she has a lot of money in the bank too. No matter what she chooses, Cindy's dream of becoming a homeowner is now within her reach.
Pretty good explanation compared to like the first time I heard about the program we were drawing on the board, and that was so great.
Pictures are always a little simpler.
Yeah.
Any questions? That's the program in a nutshell. So the reason we're here is we want to make sure that Ogden City employees know about it. There's no obligation for the city to participate or do anything. We just want to make the opportunity as broadly aware as possible, especially here in our backyard where Bruce and I are both from here.
We originally started as a target. The reason that is a teacher on the board is that's what we targeted first, the teaching and first responders. And that's where we went first. It was very successful. And we can tell you we haven't had a missed payment yet on any one of the homes. And so that is really a great benefit to us and to the individuals. We've had some great success stories. We've had some people that have had to move because of work relocation, and they've taken a good chunk of equity with them and been able to either start in a home somewhere else in another state or even further south and even in our state if they decided that's where they went. But we feel that this is a great program, and we've had great opportunity to really instruct. And I think one of the greatest parts of this is it teaches a principle of at least saving and having a reserve. And as you can see, many people are in that situation that they live from day to day, and if a crisis hits, they have no way of taking care of it. This gives them that buffer, without taking every dime of cash out of their account to get into a home. And so we feel has been a great program. We anticipate that it's going to be even better. We started in 2020. We had some reiterations of that earlier. It took us 3 years to get the legal documents for the fund side of it, but we feel it's a great opportunity for a lot of people.
I bet there's a couple questions like, how can this possibly work? And I have an idea, but I'm sure you know. And then where are the houses that people are buying?
Well, the houses are anywhere in the state of Utah right now. We have some in St. George. We have some in San Juan. We closed 3 houses, Logan, from the top to the bottom of the state, Tooele, east to west. We haven't.
So they're just like market rate housing that you're helping people gain access.
Right. We wanted to work within the market to make sure that anytime you mess with the market and give that what we might call a haircut in the market rate, at some point somebody's going to have a great advantage in that when they come down the road. This way, it doesn't change anything in the market. The individual that's in the program has a complete understanding of what a housing market and what it means to own a home. And so I think it was important for us to stay within that market rate. And we just, they choose their own home. We help them with a realtor, and then they are able to go ahead and choose their own home. And based on our recommendations and what we tell them that their payment can be, and we make sure that that's within reason. The last thing we want to do is strap somebody in a home. And if they can't do it right now, we give them a path to where they can be educated and maybe start to save some money, that then they can have at least that 2-month deposit, and we can work with them at that point.
Yeah, we've had a couple of people that have had significant credit issues, consumer debt, and one took almost 2 years, and they came back and they had fixed their credit. They'd done some credit counseling. They'd gone through and gotten to where they now qualified because they'd gotten their credit or their debt under control, and they're in a home now. Just to highlight kind of the difference in payment, for a $400,000 home right now, when you're looking at PITI, with the market rate of 7.5% roughly, mortgage rates right now, you're looking at a payment, depending on whether you have mortgage insurance or not, $3,500 to $4,000 a month, which, if you divide that by 40% even, you got to make a lot of money to afford that home. It's out of reach for most working people. The middle class is not able to achieve that. And with our program, that same home would have a payment of $2,100, a little less than $2,100 actually. So the monthly payment is a lot lower. The down payment requirement is out of the way, and it's a way for people to get in the game that otherwise are just absolutely frozen out right now. And so our investors are, you asked how it works, Intermountain Healthcare, Zions Bank, Bank of Utah here locally, Cache Valley Bank. We've had a number of institutional investors that invested the equity piece, and then America First Credit Union has been our debt partner and has done a tremendous amount of debt with us.
Right.
And one third question, just to kind of explain, a lot of organizations like Intermountain right now have allocated a certain amount of their portfolio to impact investing. And so what that means is that they are able to lend money or support investment opportunities in different kinds of ways, where with this fund where it doesn't expect the same return as maybe the rest of their portfolio does. In some cases, some things that they work on have a pretty low return, maybe like 1% to 2% or something like that. They eventually do expect to get the money back, but it's at a much lower rate. So I think that's how some of the organizations are allocating those funds. And then it's available to our caregivers at Intermountain Health. Obviously, it's available to other people too, but that's kind of part of the target audience.
So Bruce, if I'm in this program and I do want to sell the house, I need to relocate or something, is it just like if I'd owned the home in the first place, I got to put it up for sale? And
exactly.
So
yeah, obviously you would have some interaction with the board and some with the operations part of the company, and they would help you get things set and help you sell that home. And when you
does
sell
that
the home,
program follow them into the next place?
It can, if it's in the state of Utah, we can maybe get to that point. We can maybe roll that over. It all depends on where we are with the program at that time.
Yeah.
But the ideal is, if you have to sell, is that you pull the equity, you pull everything that you've made, go to your new location, and you have now a down payment and everything that you can just enter the market at a regular, without any of our information or our help, and that you're on your own and going on with that. And that's what our goal is to get them out on their own.
Well, this is great. I gotta tell you, this is, it sounds like a game-changing program. I got a couple of kids that are aiming for that 40,000, and that's a big number for people to try to
That
save.
is.
And so, I'm gonna go make some calls when this is over to these kids and just say, hey, you know what, there's hope.
Yeah.
'Cause that's a
Anyone
neat
Go to the
thing.
website.
Anyone can go to the website at www.RockyMountainHomesFund.net.
Yeah.
And they can it'll give you actually a mortgage calculator, kind of tell you what you're making. And when you can put it in, it's real quick. It'll tell you about where we can be. And then it's an interview process that comes with 3 interviews and board approval. And it's really pretty simple. And yet it teaches some great principles along the way, and helps them become not only a homeowner, but a responsible homeowner, understanding exactly what it takes to own a home.
Yeah. Well,
I
Sharon,
think- I'm not
this
sure
was a
we have
lot
that
better
website. I think-
Program or presentation than last week, 'cause I was really bummed when we got.
That
done.
was a lot of,
Yeah.
yeah.
A lot of bad
Hopefully
news.
you
Change the website.
get a
Well,
little inspiration here.
I think the
yeah.
website is just rmhf.net. I'm not sure if the other one is still active or not, but just
Yeah, we changed that when
rmhf.net.
we changed the videos. I
Yeah.
apologize for that.
That's okay.
RMHF.com?
.net.
.net.
Okay.
rmhf.net. So to the extent, we've met with some of the administration, we'd love to just push information out to your employees, but it's a program that we want to make available to as many people as possible, as quickly as possible. Intermountain just committed another 25 million in equity to the program, which is the largest investment in Intermountain's history in their impact investing portfolio. So it's been very well received by sort of the impact investing community, and it will produce income for them. I mean, it'll help them to do more good later on as well. So we're excited about it.
That's great. And I mean, I just have to applaud you. You all and probably your board for sticking with it, because I know when we were having the conversations, I think it took us about an hour to first, I think you told me all about it, and I'm not a financial expert of any kind. And then talking to different people. So you've had many, many conversations. And like you were saying, it took you so many years just to get the legal,
Right.
everything set up appropriately. So I appreciate your persistence, and your innovation is just incredible to help support the community. Oh, so we have a couple more questions.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, what are some of your challenges? I mean, it seems like $300,000 home is not existent, so.
That's a big challenge.
Yeah, this is just a little bit dated.
just a
Our
year.
average home price, I think right now is about 400,000.
425.
425.
That.
So the pricing has gone up, and what that means basically is the bottom rung of that ladder is just a little bit higher. Where we used to be able to go to people making 48,000, 50,000 a year.
It's now
It's
60 to
now
70.
60 is probably the bottom layer, depending on what kind of debt they have, or any other income. It's just getting tougher, and our interest rates are below market. Our last loan tranche was at 3.99%, which is significantly below market. We pass that benefit on to our participants. That helps keep their payment obviously much lower. But for the lender, it's an easy risk because they're only at 50% leverage, and they're loaning to the fund. They're not lending to the individuals. So
I just wanted to clarify. So is this program available to anybody, or is it, you don't have to be like a first responder, a nurse, a city employee, anyone?
correct. Yeah, we're still giving preference if there's in one cohort, if there's a shortage and we're like, okay, we can only help 10 out of these 15. And then we'll give preference to those job classifications still, but we don't foresee that being an issue. We're just letting people know that may become an issue at some point.
The spectrum should be getting broader and broader.
No, I just was gonna say, I was in the mortgage world for about 10 years, 17 years ago, and I just applaud the innovation, and it's exciting to see this type of a program that exists. And in my mind, I'm kind of thinking about, who's, just all just all the aspects of the program and all the moving parts, and it's pretty awesome. I was gonna say, I wasn't sure if I was reading Steve Waldrop or George Bailey on the line here, getting home ownership to everybody. That's pretty cool, so.
Lightning is about to strike.
Any other questions, Ben? I don't know if you'd have any questions online.
I was curious how many total participants? Unless I missed it.
I think we've got about, well, yeah, I mean, I think we've got 53 homes now in the program, about 250 participants in those family groups.
Right.
We've got 6 closes before the end of the year. We have 12 people, I think, that are starting to shop at the beginning of the year in a wait list of a few hundred right now.
Probably
So,
by the end of January, we'll be close to 72 homes. Is
Yeah.
what we anticipate.
It's amazing.
and we'll, we're ramping up in velocity. We kind of did it as let's see if this really works, and it does really work. And so the fund we're doing now is a $300 million fund. So with Intermountain's 25 million kicked it off, we've got some very positive cash coming in, which just helps us help more people.
Actually, I had just a question pop in. And so you're holding the mortgages, or the investors are holding that. Have you
Right.
explored, I'm assuming it's a traditional 30-year mortgage, and have you looked
Right.
at options of
Amortized at
maybe
that.
amortizing over longer potentially as a way to lower that wrong, or what kind of risk might be involved in that?
We haven't done that yet. That really becomes a lender question for our lenders. China, now you can get a 100-year mortgage.
Really?
Um,
Oh my
I
goodness.
think that world is coming, but we haven't, lenders here haven't kind of swallowed that nut yet. I think it's coming though.
The only other, I'm so sorry.
Live to
I was gonna-
140,
I
you
should,
might pay
maybe I
that off.
should say too, our goal is that on a 10-year call on this loan, is that by that time, our goal is actually 7 years, but by 10 years, they should have enough equity build up that they can go out on the market, make and buy their own home and not have to worry about a program like Rocky Mountain Homes.
Mhm.
Yeah, we want them to graduate.
We want, yeah, that's our goal, is to see them graduate out of this.
Yeah.
What about, we've been talking lately, I mean, just any insights you have around like condominiums or other kinds of homes besides maybe even townhomes or single family homes?
We have all
Yeah.
kind, we have all of those in
Oh,
part of
you
our
do?
portfolio, yes.
Cool. So do you have condos as
Mhm, we
well?
do,
Where are the condos? Tell us more, because these people are
If
very
anybody
excited
would
about
build them, you
condos.
could sell
Yeah.
them, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. I don't know
How's
if we,
that
well, we do. We
We
have
do,
some condos up here at the 20th
Yeah,
Street.
just on 20th Street up here
Mhm.
around by El Monte Golf Course there, whatever that little
Oh,
that
okay.
condominium complex is.
So they were already
Canyon
existing
Cove or whatever it's called there.
condos. huh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then we have some townhomes as well, just because that's where the market is for a lot of these people's income.
as you can tell, Steve and I are not really in the operations part of that, and so we're
Mhm.
not,
The
we
big
can't remember
thinkers.
where all these addresses
Yeah.
are. So,
Well, Chair, I gotta toot these guys' horn a little bit, Steve, other than being a recent legislator, he worked and helped us to get that resolution passed at the county for a countywide housing master plan that hopefully does kind of put some fuel to putting together some increasing density throughout some of these smaller communities that have been otherwise averse to it in the past. And so I appreciate your help on that.
I'm back on that saddle now as the state guy. So here we come.
That's
So
what
this-
the
and
whole thing says,
Just be kind to us. We're trying to help ourselves, and so we don't have to be too forced.
Yeah.
And Bruce is a Ben Lomond alumni, so
Well, there you go.
yeah.
Rich, did you read the audit? I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Actually, I just got it and I have not read it
Yeah,
yet.
well, that's basically what the whole audit says, is everybody has to work together or we're gonna make you,
Oh, I know, and
basically.
we've been getting that message for years, so we
Mhm.
were trying to be responsive to that. That was the whole idea, is that we were trying to work together and make sure that we understood our own growth needs and how we were going to address that, so. But thank you for this great program, it's neat.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your
Thank you so
time.
much. And congratulations
Thank you,
again
Chair.
on your new role.
Thank you. I gotta work again. It's
We're gonna let
kinda
him
Well,
go.
there
We
you
may let him
go.
go, but we're not sure.
Have a wonderful evening.
Thank
Thank you.
Okay, up next we have Justin Sorensen, our comptroller, to talk with us about, well, a couple different capital improvement plan reports. A lot of titles. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair. It's a pleasure to be here. I thought if it's appropriate, I just put both of them into one presentation.
We
So,
love it.
so what we'll be discussing is just a review of the capital improvement plan quarterly reports for the quarter ending June 30th, so at the end of last fiscal year, and then for September 30th, just to give you an overview of where we're at on projects. To begin with, I just want to thank Public Works for the photos in this presentation there. There's a lot of great photos of projects that they've been working on throughout the city. So I just want to make note that I really appreciate those photos. So the ones here are of some of the things that we did at Lauren Farr to get the pool ready to go this summer. Just to give you kind of an idea of the cost that went into just getting the pool ready to be opened, it was almost $200,000 that we spent putting in new skimmers and different things, new cement to get the pool up and ready to go. So you can see there some of that. Just as a reminder, where we get funding for capital projects, there's a lot of different ways that we get this. And I always like to keep this information in here as we talk about this each quarter. Just as a reminder where those funds come from. But I think a lot of people think that it's just the city that's paying for this, but we have a lot of great managers that go out and are very resourceful in getting additional funding to be able to do a lot of projects. So just as a reminder, some of those different sources, BDO lease revenue is obviously a huge benefit in helping to do capital projects as we go through that process each year. We've actually used some medical fund funding to help with put some money aside for a future training facility for fire. So that's some funding that we've also put into the CIP fund. We've also received funds from our Class B and C road funds and active transportation. Those are restricted taxes that we receive, and we put those. We'll put a portion of those into different projects that qualify. Ramp funds that we receive, WACOG funds that we are awarded, different state funds that we get. There are quite a few different grants that we go after. Same with federal funding, and then at the airport with the FAA funds, and then also donations. This right here is some pictures of an interconnect that was done between Ogden City and North Ogden. It's an emergency interconnect that allows, if I recall right, I don't want to misspeak, but where we were able to push water to them, and they're also push water back to us if needed, if there's issues. And so that was an agreement that we worked on that between Ogden City and North Ogden. So that's some pictures of that project. Reviewing fiscal year 2023 and where we ended for the year. You can see here the total appropriations that we put into the CIP fund was over $34 million. 26 million of that was for the Marshall White Center. So you can see there, the airport fund, we put over $1 million worth of appropriations, water fund, almost 5 million, sanitary fund, 1.2, storm, almost $1 million, and the golf fund, over 800,000. So quite a bit of funding went towards projects during the year last year. So this is the total amount that was appropriated within those funds. And then you can see to the right how the funding was spent, how much we spent on projects. So in the CIP fund, we had almost $13 million worth of spending on 47 different projects that we're working on. In the airport fund, almost $3 million. That's 5 different projects, but a majority of that is the state funds that we received, the $10 million. That's what a majority of those monies were going towards the west side of the airport and infrastructure out there. In the water utility was almost 4.7 million, and a majority of that was related to water replacement and pipe projects that we've got going on as part of the master plan. Over $5 million in sanitary, again, towards master plan projects. In the storm fund, 7.8 million, and again, towards their master plan projects. And the funding for those three utilities came through the 2020 bonding, a lot of that funding. And so they're continuing to spend down those funds. And then in the golf fund, almost 800,000, which related to finishing the irrigation project at El Monte. And so that's how much was spent out of the golf fund last year. In the CIP fund, I just wanted to make mention, because 12 million is quite a bit. Out of that, $1 million of that was for the North Street project, the Harrisville to Wall project going on. That was WACOG funded. So that's $1 million there. We had just over $1 million, or about 1.3 million spent on Marshall White last year. Almost $1.5 million worth of general facility improvements, which a large portion of that went towards the public works building roof replacement and also the public safety building overhead door replacement. Those were both quite expensive to do. So we also spent over 800,000 last year on sidewalk replacement, and different things related to sidewalks. $2 million that went towards the BRT project as it was being worked on, and then over $1 million in other street construction and improvement projects. Any questions on last fiscal year and projects that were complete before I talk about what we've got going on this year?
Looks really good, by the way.
It does.
It was a huge upgrade.
It does. It looks
Wonderful.
quite different than it
Yeah.
did. So. Regarding the first quarter for this fiscal year, I forgot to mention, so the picture here, this is a dugout roof replacement at the Monroe Park. There was a few different parks that we did some dugout roofs, so I threw that picture on here. And then the picture here, this is Romrell Park, some new playground equipment there. It's really fun, some of these pictures I see of some of these playgrounds, the equipment that they put in at some of the parks. It looks really fun. I'm sure kids are really enjoying. For fiscal year 24, as a reminder, this is the amounts that we've appropriated into the various funds, over 21 million in the CIP fund, 300,000 in the airport fund, just over 5.5 million in the water utility, 1.7 in sanitary, 1.2 in the storm utility, and then 350,000 in the golf fund. In the CIP fund, out of that 28 million, over 8 million of that was for two different street projects that are WACOG funded. One is for D Avenue and the other is 20th Street, Quincy to, I know it's on 20th Street. I'm drawing a blank on the other intersection. Valley. Yeah, that's right. Quincy to Valley. So that was over $8 million in WACOG funding. So that's what a majority, almost half of the 21 million was for those two projects. So in total right now, we have 123 projects that have been funded between all of the funds. 92 of those are in the CIP fund. So you can get an idea, we have quite a few different projects that have been funded. They're in process, whether it's either in planning and design or in the construction phase. So quite a bit there. For the first quarter, the spending, you can see the spending breakdown. This is for the first 3 months of this fiscal year, over $3 million in the CIP fund. And out of that, 2 million of that is related to the Marshall White Center. So that project, as we see that one, the work going on there. And then we have, you can see the funding in the airport, water, sanitary, storm, and golf funds. This is some pictures here of a Ridgecrest water line replacement. They know that they had made there. This was a mid-1980s 6-inch ductile iron pipe. You can see the condition it was in when they replaced it. So obviously, as we continue to work on that pipe replacement throughout the city, it's just going to help benefit what we can do to save water. So a couple other things of note for last quarter, out of that 3.3 million, over 400,000 was spent on sidewalk projects, 370,000 towards water pipe replacement, and then again almost 200,000 in storm master plan projects. So I wanted to share this. I got this from Monty, our parks manager. I thought this was kind of interesting. So this is at Monroe Park. This is one of the restrooms, and they don't come and construct it. They construct it off site. So I thought I'd share this video that they had shared of them putting this into place. Let's see if it'll work. It's quite the process they go through. So just a little short video. I thought that was kind of fun to see. Yeah, what they're able to do on these
Gives a
projects.
whole new name to porta potty.
It sure does.
There you go. You've done your work here.
But yeah, so that's what I have for you tonight. As an update to where we're at on our capital projects right now. Are there any questions?
No, I just, I thank you for starting out by talking about the funding sources. I think a lot of times people think it's just one funding source. I have a question. It is not related, well, it is kind of, but the Marshall White Center, are we on track? Are we on track with the funding? And you don't have to answer that tonight. That would be great to know or get an update since you mentioned it a
I
couple
don't
of
know
times.
if Lisa
tonight.
has an update or if you. Yeah,
Yeah,
but we
yeah,
can,
it was
we
just
can
a
get an update.
question
and-
that I
Yeah,
was curious about, so.
yeah, to make sure they're on schedule, I'll make a note of that.
I think another question again, I think a lot of people are gonna be excited about that 20th Street from Quincy to Valley. I get that question fairly often, but I don't know if we have an update on when, like you said, you mentioned that it's in the design phase and all of that, but I'd be curious to hear when that work is expected to be.
Yeah, I'll check,
Yeah,
definitely
thank
check with
you.
engineering.
There was a little bit of a hiccup with the intersection design as the transportation subcommittee reviewed that. And I'm not sure exactly what they ended up on there, but they are gonna do a redesign of that 20th and Harrison. Yeah, that whole intersection is, it's been really wonky forever. And, so it almost got killed because of that. But they worked something out and it went through, so that was a good thing. I had a question about, so that ductile iron pipe that you were talking about is 50 years old and it was that perforated?
Yeah, at least from the information I received, yeah. So it was
Wow,
from the
where
mid
was
eighties.
that? Do you know?
It was Ridge Crest.
Just above
on Ridge Crest.
the Buse Pond up in that.
Wow.
Yeah, looks like-
And I know the north end has pretty acrid soil, but I didn't know it did down there. I know it was going through pipe like crazy, but.
Yeah. So if you can imagine all the old pipe in the city that we're not replacing in a timely manner, what it starts to do. So. Any other questions?
I think so.
Okay. We'll get answers for those and pass it along so that you can have that. So thank you.
Thank you.
It was you brought it up a couple of times. And there's a hole in the ground. It's awesome.
Yeah, at least we got a lot of piles of dirt at this point.
Looking good.
Thank you.
Yep, next we'll invite Pam Richardson, the court administrator, to talk with us about the recertification of the Ogden City Justice Court. Oh yeah, come on up. Please. Of course, please. Please introduce yourself for those online. Oh, in this case, yeah.
Yeah, it took a long time to get used to that in court, and I certainly would not want that anywhere else.
And just make sure your mic is on until the light is green. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
So Pam put together, I'm Judge Stuckey, Clay Stuckey, and this is Pam Richardson, obviously. Pam put together a presentation. The reason we're here is by statute. Every 4 years, there's a court recertification, and it's the opportunity for the city council to to ask questions. Since we're a quasi separate branch within the city, I guess it's to make sure that the city is happy with the direction of the Justice Court and what is happening there, and to make sure that you feel like you're getting your money's worth or getting the benefit you intended to have by having the Justice Court. And before Pam starts with the slides, I guess the one thing I'd want to convey to the City Council is just how grateful we are to the city for sponsoring and having the Justice Court. We all feel like we play an important role in the mission of the of this city, by making sure there is law and order, by making sure that we address quality of life crimes that are handled in the justice court in a way that is best calculated to ensure that those problems don't continue and that people change their ways is the hope before problems become more serious or before they repeat themselves. And I think we actually have a pretty good track record of doing that. But with that, let's go ahead and turn the time over to Pam, and you can go through the slides.
All right, thank you, Judge. So the mission statement for the Utah Justice Courts is to improve the quality of life in our community. We provide, in order to do that, we need to provide fair, open, efficient, non-biased justice system. Everybody needs to feel like they're heard, that they have been treated with dignity, with respect. They may not like the outcome of the case, but they do need to feel like they had their day in court and they were treated well. I like to tell my clerks, kind of put yourself in the position of the patrons. You know, what if that was your mother? What if that was your son? What if that was your daughter in front of the court? How would you want them to be treated? We have a very experienced staff and very well qualified judges. And there's also resources available that we can help assist the individuals that we come into contact with along the way. Just a few programs: the Lantern House Homeless Court, that's held once a month. And individuals who are involved with the Lantern House and have received citations, they can work off their fine from the court by means of community service or volunteering with the Lantern House. They get credit towards the fine by, excuse me, by doing, submitting housing applications, job applications, getting documents such as social security cards, birth certificates, stuff like that. And they get credit towards the fine. So they're progressing in their getting away from the Lantern House while also taking care of their court fine. And I got to tell you, there's nothing better than to watch the Lantern House when somebody has complied with everything and they have graduated and they are moving out of the Lantern House and they have a job. There is nothing better than hearing that from them. Another of the programs that's available is the Weber County Reentry Fair. That is every Tuesday, and they also help individuals with applications for dental services, medical services. Addiction providers can get referred to employment applications, food assistance applications, and stuff like that. So it helps them improve their lifestyle. The 24/7 sobriety program is a program for individuals who have received DUIs. And this program allows them to keep their driver's license, which also would help them keep their job. And this program, they need to provide a urine analysis or a breathalyzer test twice a day. So they check in, they provide one in the morning, they provide one in the afternoon. And then they also have to comply with any orders that the judge imposed for programs. And that's for a year-long program. We also have private probation services and AMP probation services. Those are two probation agencies that the court uses for supervised probation. That's for individuals that just need a little bit more supervision than just the court saying, okay, behave. These probation agencies, they monitor if they're paying their fine or if they need community service hours, or that if they need a class, they'll monitor that they are completing that class and the counseling that's needed on that. One thing the that's pretty neat with the interpreter services that we have. There are languages or interpreters for 63 languages that we can get through the administrative office of the courts. So the hardest one I've ever had trying to find one is a Farsi interpreter. And that was a pretty difficult, but we did it. We have 3 Spanish speaking clerks that can help with the counter, with phone calls. They do not interpret in court. Those are, the court interpretation is left for the court certified interpreters through the administrative office of the court.
I love that. Can I just ask a quick question about what's the difference between the two parole services? Is it just two
There
different entities?
isn't a lot of difference, and usually when, because they should be operating under the same standards and doing the same thing. I tell you, the perspective as a judge, the biggest thing that I think the probation services do for us is the drug testing. So many of the cases involve drug problems, and what we're hoping is rather than send someone to jail for their drug problem, that they can figure out how to handle it themselves. If a lot of people either can't or don't want to get into a better program, maybe maybe an inpatient treatment or an outpatient treatment, although sometimes they can, and we allow that. But if we, for example, if we have a case, and I think Judge Junk and I are both very consistent with this, you have a meth user. Of course, that's a terrible drug. It's going to destroy your life. There's no upside to meth. We either want you in jail to dry out so you can try again to go without meth, or the better option for people is if they can get a handle on it, having some supervision, someone that's going to hold them responsible for not partaking in the meth anymore. And that's what the probation agencies do for us. For a long time, we only contracted with one, but we thought it made sense to actually have 2 that contract with the city. So there's just an option. One of them's PPS, and usually the way I ask people is say, we're going to put you on supervised probation. We want you to do the drug testing. I just tell them where both are located and pick the one that's most convenient for you. AMP has an office at about 24th and Washington, and PPS is down, they're actually across the border into South Ogden, just over the border. They're on 37th Street behind the Macy's store there. And most time people select on what's easiest for them to get to. And it's about 50-50, I think, on where people select to go to.
Thank you. Sure.
So some of the training that's required of all of our clerks through the administrative office of the court. Last year, the administrative office of the court implemented a program called Learning Management System, or LMS. And this is required training for all of the clerk staff, and it's about 80 modules. And these are annually, and some of these modules are more than an hour long. It's a video driven with questions at the end for training purposes. And then other of the modules are question answer. So it'll start with a question. If you get the answer right, you can move on to the next question. If you don't get the answer right, then a training video will pop up and you'll learn what you didn't know or what you got wrong, and then you'll proceed until the end. So the more seasoned clerks can breeze through that, where the new hires, it's going to take a little bit longer to get them through all of these modules. And also the other thing is a 95% or higher rate on time to disposition cases through the required by the Utah Judicial Council. And you can see the different requirements: 9 months, 3 months, 6 months. So just a little bit on how court works. For traffic criminal cases, you're given a citation. The officer says, contact the court within 5 to 14 days. You call us, we let you know your options, whether it's something you can just pay, whether you need to set a court date. And then it also depends on what you want to do with it. If you're contesting the citation, if you want to talk to the prosecutor, if you want a public defender. If you want to just, if it's just say a speeding ticket and you want to just pay it and be done with it. The disposition is entered at that time. So the time to disposition is from the time it's entered into our system until that is closed based on payment. If you want to see the judge and just explain yourself, or if you want to enter a plea of not guilty, we'll schedule you for an arraignment. You'll come in to the court. You'll be advised of what your rights are, what you've been charged with. The judge will ask if you want a public defender or not. If you want to plead or are pleading guilty at that time, the judge can just impose the sentencing, and that's when the disposition time clock ends at that time. If you want to plead not guilty or would like a public defender or time to retain private counsel, we'll schedule you for a pretrial conference, and at that time you will speak one-on-one with the prosecutor to see if negotiations can be reached. If negotiations are reached at that time, then that's the end of the clock for disposition on that. If negotiations cannot be reached on that case, and then it will be set for a bench trial where the judge will hear all the evidence and then he'll make a decision based on the evidence and impose the sentence or dismiss it, or whatever the case may be, but that's when the disposition is on that. The other option is setting the case for a jury trial. And then the jury will render the verdict on that. So that's kind of a little bit on how the time to disposition works.
I should mention on that time to disposition, if there's a case that takes longer, I'm pretty confident I can say 100%, not even 99.999%. It's because the defendant wanted more time. It's never the prosecution delaying things, and it's never the court. We handle a very high volume of cases, and most of the cases resolve, well, the vast majority of cases resolve immediately. They just want to plead guilty or no contest and tell you a little bit about from their side of the case and move on. And the cases that are a little more complicated is because we want to give the defendant every opportunity to put their best case forward.
Thank you. I have a quick question. So I apologize that I don't know this answer. So are you considered, or when you're hiring clerks, are they an Ogden employee then?
Yes, all of the city pays the judges' salaries, although the judges are really in a quasi state municipal role, because the city pays our salaries to have the justice court, and we may be the most highly compensated city employees because of the judges' salaries. But we're really regulated by the state in almost everything we do. The clerks who are very specialized employees. I mean, we try to say judicial assistants now because clerks is a bit of a misnomer. You have to know so many state proprietary software systems, and then you have to know the ins and outs of the justice system. So it's highly specialized knowledge. But yes, all of the staff at the court, Pam, our administrator, the in-court clerks that are very knowledgeable and specialized employees, and all the judicial assistants that handle the money and take care of things, they are all Ogden City employees. Yes.
Just where I guess where I was going with that is that, not in addition to all the other training you have to do, you also have to do all the city training. So I applaud you for that.
Can I? There's a couple of items that are going through my mind. One is, you say the people want to talk to the judge about a circumstance or something like that. Do you, or have you ever kind of seen a trend of something that's disturbing to you that is kind of a common thing that perhaps our chief ought to address, and do you communicate that back to the chief? You've got officers that are maybe not as sensitive in a particular area or something like that, or?
No, that is a great question. And, you know, the judges should try to remain just as neutral as possible. It's probably more the role of the prosecutor. Now, we do have some out of court discussions on just things we're seeing from time to time, but it's probably the prosecutor is the one that communicates more directly with law enforcement. You know that you have a great police department in this city. You can really be proud of what the police department does and the way it serves the community. But there's judicial standards that say, you know, that the judge can't have too much communication with law enforcement as to appear like they favor law enforcement, or you know, or with the defense bar either. So it's usually the prosecutors that would communicate. And I think they do when they see an uptick in some, you know, problem area that the police department needs to be aware of. It's usually the prosecutor's office that'll talk with them.
And the other thing is, I think we do parking enforcement here. You guys don't deal with that stuff at all.
We have no idea how that
So,
works.
yeah, I just have often kind of wondered, where is the line that you take stuff and or that you won't take stuff, or?
Yeah, it's anything that's an infraction. You know, that's the very lowest level is infraction, which is usually the non-intentional. An infraction is the kind of offense you can have every good intention. There was no bad thought in your mind when you did something at all, but you did something wrong. You didn't drive correctly. You made an incorrect turn. You were speeding a little bit. You made a change lanes without signaling. You know, that's the lowest level, infractions. And by code, those go into the justice courts, and then we handle the Class C and Class B misdemeanors, which really are sort of quality of life crimes. And by that I say there's crimes that sometimes we do have direct victims. The person that gets bit by the dog, the store owner or citizen that something is stolen from them. They're a more direct victim. We handle assaults, but the level of victimhood isn't so serious that it becomes a felony. So we handle assaults where someone got shoved or maybe slapped or hit, but no bones were broken and nobody went to the hospital, kind of thing. So there are things that happen in the community that would definitely hamper the quality of life in the community. The things you don't want happening, but they're almost offenses against the community and law and order and the dignity and peace of the community as their offenses against the person that's the victim. And so we make sure if there is a victim that the victim is heard. There's often restitution if there's any financial harm to a victim. Certainly that falls into theft cases and things like that. But the types of crimes that justice courts handle, I do think really set the tone for what kind of community you're going to have. Do you say, oh, the homeless that we deal with a lot, and you can have a lot of pity for that, but you just throw up your arms and say, yeah, we're not going to enforce the laws because your life is so tough. And when I talk with somebody that's experiencing homelessness, I can have a lot of empathy with them, and I will tell them how much I feel bad that they're in that situation that they're in, and that's sincere. But at the same time, you do have to have some community standards, and I think the city council, Ogden city government has set a tone that's a pretty good balance, because they are trying to help people. And honestly, I really do believe this. I say this to a lot of people. If you are homeless and you put forth a reasonable amount, it doesn't have to be a Herculean amount of effort. If you put forth a reasonable amount of effort, there are enough people in the city that are big-hearted and are in programs, you will not be homeless for long. They will get you into housing. There are people here that will get you into housing and get you out of that situation in short order, within a couple of months. That is very true. Now where we stumble in that system is sometimes people have severe mental health issues or severe drug habits that mess that up. And if you've got that problem and that can't be addressed, sometimes the mental health issue can be addressed, and often the drug addiction can be addressed, and that's a wonderful thing. And those people move off the streets into Section 8 or some other kind of housing. But those are the two blocks where I see that the people can't get off the streets is they have a mental health problem that no one has been able to help them solve yet, or they have a drug addiction that they have not been able to conquer yet.
Thank you.
I just wanted to mention, you see small claims has 9 months to disposition. And that is because when a case is filed, when you file a small claims case, you have 120 days to serve the individual that you're taking action against. So sometimes that can take a long time. And so that's why there's a longer time frame on that. I want you guys to take a look at that stack of paperwork on that desk. That is from one day from one filer of small claims. So we are very busy with paperwork at the Justice Court. Some of that's in part to the state implemented some new cases. ODR is what it's called. It's online dispute resolution. It is basically an online tool for parties in small claims to see if they can negotiate. The problem with that is it's not fully up and running yet. And so the favorite catchphrase is there's a workaround for it. So every case that's filed in small claims, we manually enter it in. And then the party needs to find a process server to serve the party that they're taking the action against. And then they need to return that proof that they served the party on that. And that's just the beginning of the small claims cycle. So that has created a lot of conflict, a lot of confusion, a lot of extra work for the judicial assistants. The My Case is basically the foundation of the court system for individuals to use. They go online to the My Case and they create a username and password and a profile, and that is through My Case is how they can log on to ODR, and which is the online dispute resolution for small claims, or the deferred traffic prosecution. But you have to start by creating a My Case account. The My Case account, what that does also is that gives an individual access to all of their cases. So you can create your My Case account, you can go on and it'll show you all of your cases. You have access to all the documents, anything. So you don't need to call the court, or if you need to print out something, you can do that. The Clean Slate program, this was another good intentions, but it was kind of hard to struggle through it. The Clean Slate is the auto expungement program, and it was signed in 2019, but it wasn't actually up and running until February of 22. And there wasn't a lot of notification to the courts. We weren't aware of whose cases were expunged and whose weren't. So when the public was calling us, we're like, we don't have a case for you. We don't know. And they weren't. So there was a few cases, and the police department wasn't being notified that those cases had been taken out of their system and the jail and prosecutor's office before. So for a full expungement, it needs to be expunged out of all of those databases for those different entities. So it took about a year for that to get fully up and running. And then the deferred traffic prosecution, this is kind of like traffic school without the traffic school. So the benefit of this is, and it's for individuals who are 21 years and older, if they haven't had any tickets within the last 3 years, they can go online, pay the court fine and a $5 service fee that goes to the state. They can, if they stay out of trouble for a year, then the case gets dismissed, and so those points don't go on their driving record. So all of these workarounds in these programs kind of caused a lot of stress with our staff and frustration, not knowing how to help the public and the public not getting the answers that they need. And so we made it through though, and we're still we're still doing, but yeah, this increased our workload with the online dispute resolution. And these 4 cases that I've highlighted, they all came about within a year or so of each other. So it was just like one, oh, how do we do this? And then how do we do this? And so it was fun, but we've got a great staff right now. Here is a shot of our average case filings, and this is per month. And I want to draw attention to the current FY24, which is down at the bottom in the middle. So this is July 1st through October 31st. We've already, our average is 333 small claims cases per month. So you times that by that big stack of paper, and we're busy. And then you look at our past FY 2020, we only did 175 as our average, and 21 we did 131, 22 we did 175, and then last year we up to 245. So, and with the small claims, we can touch each one of those cases 6 to 7 times. So you have,
what's like an example of a small claims? I'm trying to think. I've watched a lot of like Judge Judy or something in
Yeah.
the past, but is that the kind of thing?
so if
or-
I loaned you $50,000 or $5,000, and I will promise to pay you back next week. I don't pay you back. You're like, I want my money now. So then you can come in, file a small claims case, and then have it served, and then you would
If
be
it was
the.
50,000,
If it would be 50,000, it would definitely be over at the district court. Our limit is 15,000 in our court.
Okay, that makes sense.
So,
I'll tell you the bulk of them. A lot of them are, and the ones I find most interesting as a judge is resolving disputes between citizens, neighbors, building a fence and getting in a fight over it, small business dealings amongst people, buying a used car, and allegations of fraud or misrepresentation on that. And those are the more interesting cases, but those are probably and those are usually the ones that go to a trial. You almost feel like you're wearing a clergy hat, because part of you're trying to say, look, you've both got a valid view. You don't have to hate each other. Let's try to work this out, civilly, and we'll do our best to do that together. But I'll say the bulk of the small claims cases are probably I'll just call them payday lenders. They're people that loan on higher interest rates for people that don't have credit. I'll be honest. Both Judge Junk and I try to follow, as Rob you do. We follow the law on that, and we enforce the contracts. But sometimes that's difficult. If there's ever an area, that's probably the only area as a judge I feel like I'm not 100% sure I'm on the right side of this issue enforcing the law, but it's up to the legislature to say what the law is, and once when they say what the law is, I do have to follow, because sometimes some of those contracts border on, unconscionable. But as you know, Utah has no usury rates. The solace that I think both Judge Junk and I can take when we resolve those cases is the state interest rate is currently 6.73%. And so if it goes to a judgment, at least it's not earning that 120% interest anymore.
Yikes.
It stops the bleeding, and from there on it's only 6% interest. But that is probably the only thing sometimes I find challenging as a judge is I hate to see people that because their credit was bad that they put themselves in a worse position. When I have literally people have asked, I borrowed $500 a year ago, how can I possibly owe $2,500 now? And that's how high interest rates work, but at least you've learned your lesson, I hope. But that's something that the city council can't change. That's something that the state legislature would have to change someday.
Well, thanks so much.
So for the small claims, I don't know if you're interested in the process of that. I can go over that with you. You come in, you file a complaint. You have to get it served. So we enter in the complaint. You serve the defendant who you're taking to court. You have to provide the proof of service back to us. So then we have to scan that into the file. And then the two parties will negotiate online with the facilitator, which is kind of like a mediator, to see if a resolution can be reached.
Pam, how do you provide that proof of service? How's that done?
The process servers have a paper that says I served this and this and this individual on this date, and then they return that to the court.
Okay, all right. So the person being served doesn't have to agree to something.
Right.
All right, just checking.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, I won't take it, and they run away.
Yeah, not it. So if negotiations can't be reached online, then we can set up for a trial, and then the judge will make the deciding factor. So say you get a judgment and the person doesn't pay. You want to take them back to court and say, hey, I want my money, or whatever the case may be. You have to serve them paperwork for a supplemental order. Again, the paperwork for the supplemental order has to be filed with the court, and then also the return of service, the proof of service that you served them with a supplemental order. And we set a court date. They come to court and explain why they haven't paid, and they try to negotiate payments arrangements or whatever at that time. So anytime an action, I won't bore you with the details, but anytime an action takes place and there's several steps to be taken to try and collect on the judgment that you've received.
Next.
Every time you have to file the paperwork, we scan it in, file the return, we scan it in. And it can just be never ending until you get a judgment or you give up.
So does wage garnishment, is that one of the tools that you will use?
Yes.
And okay.
And we get to file that into the system too.
That's certainly not the first choice, or that's not the first step that you would do. Probably.
No, and often on the small claims, people will work it out. I probably go beyond the standard decorum for judges and encouraging people, and I give them a little lecture. Well, you can decide you don't want to pay this judgment. Well, first I tell them you have a right to appeal. I did my best to get this right under the laws, the best I understand it. But if you feel strongly I got it wrong, the district court is right across the street. You can appeal it. Very few of them get appealed, believe it or not. It's one out of 1,000 or less. It's a very low percentage of our cases that ever get appealed. But first we offer them the right of appeal. But then I do try to give them the lecture of neither one of you really want to go down, down the road to garnishments and things like that. Creditor, be reasonable, talk with this person to see if there's a payment plan that can be reached. So you don't have to invest your emotions into being mad that you're not getting paid and trying to garnish, and because the garnishment won't necessarily, people can leave their job and then you're chasing someone. It's so much better if you can at this point cooperate towards a resolution than chase each other around. And debtor, the reason you need to do that, it's just going to get more expensive. The garnishment charges get tacked onto the judgment, and every time they have to take some sort of extraneous step to try to collect that judgment, they are entitled as a creditor to their out-of-pocket costs taking that step. If they have to have a sheriff sale, the costs of conducting that sale and advertising it go onto the judgment. So, and really, we do see that once the judgment is entered, both sides probably grumble, they didn't give me everything I wanted. But usually both sides will cooperate to get it paid. There's very few appeals, and most of the time things get paid. There are some people that just don't pay the judgments in the poor creditor. And I warn people, sometimes getting the judgment is the easiest part of this. The interesting thing is, if people come and participate, it almost always resolves in a decent way. The cases where the creditor is left chasing the debtor is when it's a default judgment. The debtor won't even participate in the process. The debtor's just saying right up front, yeah, chase me and try to get paid, and then the poor creditor is chasing them forever and may never get paid.
So here I just put our case filings by category: criminal, traffic, and small claims. So with the numbers at the top.
Just for Ogden City
Yes.
boundaries? All that's
Yes.
just Ogden City?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we are a very busy court. If one pitch I could make, our staff works extremely hard. The judicial assistants, Pam, everybody works extremely hard. And our case does run sort of lean. I asked to see they have this weighted caseload number, and our court, does I guess it's 30% more. The way they rate it by a judge, if a judge is 100% busy on a weighted caseload, that would be 1, and our court has a 2.6 rating on the weighted caseload, which is the heaviest in the state, which is saying we're getting more out of our two judges and our staff than anybody else is getting. So
I actually had a question about your staff. There was a slide back a couple, you don't have to go back, but it said some people left because they could make more money or the workload or burned out or whatever. Is that a problem? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
what's your turnover rate? How's that working
Right now,
out?
we're good. We're actually down 1 staff member, but it's because he got a job with the administrative office of the courts, being the education committee chair.
Okay.
So
yeah, so he
we'll take that one.
he was
Yeah,
so
for a
good.
minute,
that
yeah.
The state hired
The
him to
state
train
took him.
all the clerks.
Mhm.
So yeah, we're in the
statewide.
process of filling
Okay.
that position now, though.
Well, I mean, I know that, I mean, yeah, you guys there's a lot of training goes into
Mhm.
it. So it is it's very difficult when you lose someone because
Yeah.
there's a lot invested in that person. So I just curious.
Yeah.
And how many judicial assistants do you have or right
So
now?
we have 2 judges, 10 full-time judicial assistants, and then 2 part-time.
Okay, awesome.
And this may not be the place for it, but since we've got you.
Hey, I mean, you've got us. Yeah.
I'll make
Public
I'll make
record.
that pitch, and Mara, you can you can shut me down because I brought this up to Mara a couple of times. If my one wish, and I'd be even to say this, don't raise Judge Junk and I's salary for a couple of years if you have to, but raise our staff's salary. I mean, honestly, their pay truly is below what it should be for all the training and credentials that they have to have. And I know you have the tough job that nobody wants to raise taxes. And of course you want government to run as efficiently as possible. But we really have lost people. One person left to go work in a warehouse that was a very talented and smart and valuable judicial assistant. But like, I can make, I can make almost $10 an hour more working, working in this warehouse. And I just don't want to lose the talent that we have there, because there's so much training to get somebody up to speed, to be able to sit and I tell people this in court all the time, like, hey, here's the person that's doing all the work. I love making these, judicial pronouncements here, but the clerk works so hard to get everything entered in the computer and understand the computer and get the things I could not do it as well. I just couldn't do it, period. If you set me beside myself and say, you be the judicial assistant, I would have to go get some computer training to figure out some of the things that they have to do. And I don't know if I could ever be as efficient in all the multitasking that they have to do, listening to everything I'm saying while entering it in, and then understanding how all the state computer systems fit together. It truly is highly specialized. So if there is ever a time to keep our court staff in mind, that would be my one ask of the city council. I honestly have often embarrassed how hard they work for their salary in comparison to mine. And I've openly admitted that to them. And I think it's somewhat in fairness. The judges' salaries are keyed off of the state pay scale, and I think we are very fairly compensated, but I think our judicial assistants that work so hard probably aren't compensated like they should be.
Okay, well, we're running short on time, so we're gonna wrap this up. This is a snapshot of the Justice Court revenue and expenses. And Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong, the bond for the Justice Court bond was paid off, and so the highlighted areas we should be running in the green.
The Justice Court bond, that was a sales tax bond. We paid it off early because we were doing a new sales tax bond. We wanted a new general indenture. So there will be one more payment in fiscal year 24 for about $350,000.
Thank you. So believe it or not, we have had some successes, and like I said, we're kind of running short on time, so I won't go into a lot of these, but with all the new programs that came in, the COVID, we rearranged, regrouped, and came up with a way to stay in operational. Most of the courts closed down during the pandemic. They weren't doing any business. We were able to stay open, and so we kept the work cases flowing. We didn't get the backlog that many courts are still dealing with now. And just despite all of these hurdles that we had, our staff is still able to provide outstanding customer service. And then here is a picture of our staff.
Well, thank you both so much for coming. The only other question I have is, what would happen if we didn't have the Justice Court here? Where would people have to go to get all
It
this
would roll
work
to
done?
the county. There is a county justice court, and if you decided, it's too much administrative burden to have a court, I would plead to come over and argue that would be a mistake, but it would roll to the county justice court. I think one of the strengths of the justice court is that I always think government works best that's closest to the citizens that are governed, and I do think each community has a little bit of a different character to it. And the beauty of the justice courts is I think they can try to reflect the, you know, the character and the goals and the approach of the community they're in. And there are real differences between the justice courts across the state. Sometimes I think the AOC, the state administrative arm that runs all the courts, sees that as perhaps a bad thing. There shouldn't be any differences in the courts. But I actually think that's a good thing. It's a strength
I mean,
because
we-
you have
yeah.
courts that reflect the community.
We like to be untamed, but it's not too untamed.
I just have a quick question, and it has more to do with, you mentioned that there are, I don't know, 3 or 4 online, you have to submit online. Where do people go if they don't have a computer, or can they do it from their phones?
They can do it from their phones, any internet access. What we usually have them do is go to the library, or if they have somebody available, like a friend or a relative that can help them through the process. But we do a lot of walking people through on our phones as they're trying to log in through this, because it is not, not everybody's tech savvy.
And that's such a great question because I'm on the governing board of the Justice Court judges. And all the time, I think people get a little carried away with, you know, we can do everything virtually now, and there's downside to that in the court. One, I don't think you have the level of communication you can when you can look people in the eye and really, you know, really talk together. I think you lose a little bit of that. But the one thing I always have to remind the AOC is there are a lot of communities that don't even have the smartphone and the laptop. I mean, the assumption is, oh, everybody can just get on their laptop. Well, we handle a lot of cases where the defendant doesn't even have a phone, period, or if they do have a phone, it's certainly not a phone that's capable of running the software that it takes to do some of the online things. So they're still coming to court and getting help by the staff and the judicial assistants to get things filed and get things done.
Good question. Well, thank you so much, and thanks for your service.
Well, but thank you. We really are grateful that for the support we receive from the city. We feel, you know, we feel very supported in our task, and sometimes it is difficult. I think the judicial systems keep up with all the changes that happen as the law changes every year. But I do think people you know, love working for the city and feel like we accomplish a lot of good with what we do. Can we ask, I know we have to do this at the public meeting. Do you want to tell us, is there something we should change in this, tighten up the presentation as far as time?
Janine will be in charge of that.
Okay.
Yeah, I have 10 minutes, so that's like 8 slides. So.
Thank
Thanks
you.
again. All right, up next we have Mira for our administrative update.
Great, thank you. And thanks to Pam and Judge Stuckey for that presentation. I did want to comment, we made one change in the last budget cycle to, it was a position title change, but where we went from clerk to judicial assistant 1 and I believe 1, 2, and 3 to mirror the state system of assistance. And so it was just a step in the direction toward making sure that we are competitive and we just kind of started with a change so that also it would provide some opportunities for growth and you know, and promotion among the judicial assistant level. So we are looking at that and just, you know, taking one step at a time in that direction. So I had a couple things I wanted to open with, but then I'm here for question and answers as well. But a couple things I wanted to let you know. One is the Diversity Affairs and the Diversity Commission is going to be producing a quarterly newsletter. So it's in draft form, but I thought I would just pass that around, and it will be, the first volume will be coming out on January 8th. And it will have some events highlighting, this first one just highlights a couple of the commissioners and a history piece. Also, just some individuals in the community, and it will also highlight partner organizations, and it'll be available in limited quantities around the community in print form, and then also online and all the social media. But that's just a fun update there from the Diversity Commission. They wanted me to share that. I also wanted to share that you may be seeing, or some of our citizens may be seeing around the community, that officers are starting to drive a Ford 150 responder rather than the traditional Ford Explorer Interceptors that we've had for quite a long time. And a lot of that has to do with a change in focus of the Ford brand of vehicles. And the reason why we've stuck with Ford for many years, and we try to stick with one type of vehicle because it's easier for maintenance purposes, for parts purposes. But the Interceptor is becoming less available, and we are going to see that even becoming less available over time. So we started buying the Responder, and we have a few out there already. And over time, probably starting in FY25, so next July, we are going to be replacing more of the Interceptors with that F-150 Responder. And in the recent purchases, they were actually less expensive than the Explorer Interceptors that we had been purchasing. And we do anticipate that both those truck types are going to be the ones that Ford is moving toward. That's part of their that's part of the marketing, and they're moving towards that. We want to stick with Ford at this point, and over time we're going to be moving in that direction. So I wanted to let you know that you may be seeing that around, and I can provide more information as it goes forward. That's the reason why you're going to be seeing a change out there. So I don't know.
Hey, Mara.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
As you were talking about cars.
Mm-hmm.
What have you guys ever thought about the possibility of EV cars for the police?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we are dipping our toe into that and looking at, we've kind of looked at what would be the best vehicles to start with that. I think some of it still is range and, and just cost and, the time to turn over our fleet. But we were going to start with one of the kind of around, sort of short trip, I think even in the CED, looking at an EV vehicle there. So it's definitely something that our fleet committee is looking at. I'll try to get an update on their thoughts, but definitely something they've looked at.
Thank you.
Thanks.
If we just had a place to charge them.
Yeah, coming soon to a municipal building near you. Do you have any questions for me? Those were the two items that I just wanted to bring up proactively.
Any questions?
The building on 25th Street, I've heard that's coming down. Is that right? Or yeah.
We are at this point, I think there's still some uncertainty in that we are moving forward, unless we hear within the next couple of days, we're moving forward with a fencing that we've, ordered. We're still monitoring that property. So my understanding as of today is we haven't heard a definitive word on that, but the city, has issued its own order, and that's going through some different, legal processes, but it could come down and the city could be the one to take it down probably in the next, couple months if, there's no further stays of that action.
Just to follow up on that, I feel like I read somewhere or something around like, then it could be rebuilt, because I think some people are saying, oh, well, then we can deny them building it again, but because of the legal process, right, there's no stopping if they wanted to rebuild that same structure at this point. Or if someone did.
Yeah, my understanding would be if there's an approved permit and that, there will be parts of that, foundation that'll potentially be remaining after the current, structure is removed, that it could be rebuilt. There could be some changes made, but, the footprint could stay the same.
What's the story with its sister building on 12th Street? I did see some people actually working on it the other day, but
Yeah.
is it in the same limbo or
No, not at all. That project is moving forward.
is
yeah.
it the same plan? I guess that's what I wonder.
It's
it
the
sort of looks
same,
the same, but
it's the same, owner, put it that way, but there's a new, contractor, who's working on that project.
it doesn't have the same.
No,
deficiencies
it's a
that-
different plan. It's quite a different
Okay.
overall, plan and layout is my understanding. It's a lot bigger. It's a lot
Okay.
longer and
All right.
wider.
I just have people ask and I didn't know the answers, so.
Yeah, that's moving forward.
I saw somewhere, probably, if you can believe everything on the internet, but that they had taken the windows out of that building. Was that did anybody else see that?
I am not aware of that, possibly.
I think the one on 12.
I saw some people out there working on the windows.
Well, that's what I saw too, is people were working on the windows. I don't know if they put them in or taking them out. but-
Seeing and believing everything I read.
I have another quick question. So this might be for the council and for you too, but I've always wondered when I drive around and I see large commercial empty lots around the city that have been empty for a long time. And the weeds are everywhere and they're pretty tall and there's a lot of debris and there's a lot of stuff. It looks pretty messy. It's pretty ugly. It's an eyesore. And I've always wondered how come we don't hold the owner of these properties to the same standards as we hold our residents, right? Where we are pretty strict strict, and we have ordinances to apply to our residents. So I can think of two places, right? The one here there's one on Washington, like 17th Street, I think. Not 17.
Oh, 14.
14.
Mhm.
There's one that's been there like for a long time. And then I'm also thinking about the old Fred Meyer's building that is just there, right? And then I think about when I go to malls and there's a little shop in the mall that is in remodeling and they just put this really nice, temporary wall with banners, right? And I think that there are some construction companies that do that in projects. And construction projects, they have a really nice way of doing temporary aesthetic type of wall structures, whatever they're called. And I'm just curious if you have ever thought about this, or if you guys have ever thought about this and what you might think.
If I might help you pile on a little bit, I mean, part of the problem is even the RDA owns properties that aren't very well maintained, and so it's very difficult to. And it's really embarrassing for me as a council member that, these projects become pretty in array.
They're an eyesore.
When they're in violation of our ordinance. And code enforcement is still out enforcing people. And it's just, it looks really bad.
It feels like a double standard.
Well, it is a double standard.
Yeah.
But it's not feeling like it. It is a double standard.
Yeah.
Well, one comment I have is we've, over the last couple years, been a lot better at tracking properties, like RDA properties, for example, because sometimes it's hard to pinpoint the locations if it's a lot, depending on the legal description, if there's an address. And so we've made an effort in the last couple of years to make sure that we have a working in an accurate database of all those properties. And that is communication between our facilities group and, the economic development group. And we do have contractors who will go out and clean those up. So it's something that we're paying attention to as well. So my hope is that it's getting better over time, because we're definitely focusing on that. We don't want a double standard, especially for city-owned lots. So that was brought to my attention, and we've been working on that. And if there's ever, as far as if the code needs to be stronger or different than it is currently, I think that's an issue that can be looked at, maybe even with some of the, the master planning or some of the zone ordinance changes that we're looking at right now. Just that, I would imagine that could be a comment. There's some of the first open houses are going to be coming up on those zone ordinances. It would be probably, an appropriate place for citizens to make comments about that. There will be one at the end of January, so there's time to get you more details on that, but we're going to be starting the public outreach on the zone, code changes. So that could be a time if there needs to be some changes there. But otherwise, I think that if there are properties that are standing out and they're not meeting our current code, then I'd like to hear about that. We would definitely take a look at enforcement action. So.
All right. Thank you, Mara. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I don't see any other questions.
All right.
Thanks for the update.
Thank you. Welcome.
Seeing as we only have like 5 minutes left, is there any council business? We were going to look at the survey results from the snowplow ordinance thing, but I don't think we have time today. Maybe we can do that next week.
Yeah, we can do it next week. I just want to remind everybody, you've got the party on Thursday night and the request from Sonora that you be in your seats and ready to order at 6. He's got a couple of really large other parties going on. So they're closing on the bonds tomorrow, well, in the next week and a half. So we have a photographer coming either on the 9th or the 16th of January. If any of you won't be available on one of those days, please let me know so that we can
updating
schedule
again.
that. Yeah. You won't be home of either one of those? Just tell us
Have a
when.
cardboard
Yeah,
cutout.
just tell us
Yeah.
when you will be available.
What does do a
Yeah.
Photoshop and put you in there from
Yeah.
last picture? Yeah.
Okay.
16th.
Okay.
Thank you
Thanks.
all. It's later. Give me a little something, just in case I get trapped out there. Sometimes I've skipped one, I'm like, what? It's like 9 p.m. and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna eat my own arm off. No. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry, I missed that meeting.